I have the tremendous privilege of working with people for a living. I've been working with people in various capacities for over 2 decades now. And there's one thing that I've observed in almost every single human being that I work with. I've also observed this deeply in my own life. And here's something I want to share with you that may seem a little bit shocking to you, okay? If you're watching this video, there's a really strong likelihood that you are afflicted with a deep sense of self-shame. Self-shame. Self-shame is debilitating, and it will keep you from really stepping into the potential that you have as a human being on this planet. Shame and self-shame, it makes you a shell of the person you could be in life. And in today's video, I'm going to share with you 3 really key indicators and that will show you whether you're living in what I call critical levels of self-shame. Okay, so stay tuned. Hi, welcome back to the channel. My name is Jamal Javanji. I'm a life coach by profession. I'm the founder and CEO of a company called Free to Love Coaching Solutions, LLC. I'm an author of the Amazon best-selling book called Living for a Living. I'm so glad you tuned in today because we're going to talk about 3 really important key indicators that are going to show you or show us whether or not we're living in critical levels of self-shame. Is super important that I first of all become aware of the shame that we're living in, know how to identify it, and that we also take steps to step out of it, which I'll talk about here in a second. But here are the 3 characteristics. Let's start with the first one. The first characteristic that show you that you're living in a real deep sense of shame, and this largely has to do with the perception of yourself, right? At the conscious and mostly subconscious level. The first indicator is this. You have a tendency to get roped into other people's needs. You are always known for stepping up to the plate, being reliable, making sure everyone else is okay. You get a lot of praise and people have a high value for who you are because you're so reliable. You're always looking out for the needs of other people. You're always serving, and you really take a lot of pride in being needed. You love the fact that you're needed. And you're always being stretched thin. And there are times, right, that you become really tired and you feel burned out. Then you begin to plan the escape, right? The next weekend where you can just have nothing on the calendar, or the next vacation, or whatever it may be. But if this is the way you're living, if you're noticing this in your life constantly, that you're always stretched thin, always showing up for another person, doing what's needed, doing some task that is asked of you or required of you. If you're finding that this is a key metric in your life constantly and you're tired and then you start to resent it, this is a massive indicator that you are ashamed of yourself. Let me repeat that again. If you have a hard time not helping other people, stepping up to the plate, being the rescuer, the savior, the reliable one, if you have a hard time with boundaries, saying no, clearing your schedule, if you have a hard time with that, it's probably because you're ashamed of yourself. Now, what does this have to do with shame? Well, number one, right? We learn early on in our life, there's a message that gets communicated and broadcast to us at the subconscious level. And that message is that in and of yourself, you're not enough. There's nothing really special about you. There's nothing very significant about you. So what happens? Yeah, we learn how to become more than we are. And we do this by excelling at a skill, maybe becoming hyper vigilant to what other people want or need from us. We want to be the helpful one. We want to be the productive one. Because somewhere along the line, we learn to get praise from our performance. We learn to get praise from our activity and being more than we are. Because if you were just you, it wouldn't be enough, right? That's the messaging that so many of us have been afflicted by. And this creates a real sense of shame with ourselves. So we look to cover that up through our performance. And usually people who carry this kind of shame and have a hard time not showing up for other people, they routinely do not show up for themselves. They don't take the time that they need. They postpone the most important things. They cancel the most important things. They don't get the massages. They don't invest in the meals or eating good, high quality meals. They don't create the space where they can decompress and relax because they feel guilty when they're sitting still. They feel like they're not doing something they should be doing. This is because they feel ashamed of themselves. And maybe you're watching this video, right? Does that ring a bell for you? My guess is it probably does at some level. A lot of us are carrying this deep sense of shame and we're unconscious about it. So we're always trying to compensate. But if you notice having a hard time saying no, clearing your schedule, taking the time that you need, investing in yourself, in your well-being, if you have a hard time doing that, it's because of shame. Right? And this kind of flows from the first one. But the second indicator that you're carrying deep self-shame is that you have a real hard time letting people be with you. You have a hard time being with other people, and you have a hard time letting people be with you. Just for no reason, just to be with you. Now, where does this show up a lot? Now, okay. Have you ever been with people, when you're waiting in line at the grocery store, or maybe you're hanging out with some friends, you're with a group of people, maybe you're with family. Do you know what people do when there's a break in activity, a break in conversation? Do you know what people do? That's right. They pull out their phones, right? They pull out their phones and they just kind of look busy. Maybe they're checking their email, looking on social media, scrolling, doing whatever. I notice this all the time, even when you're with people that you really like. When people are with you, when you're with the person that you really love, it's very common, no matter what's going on, when there's a lull in activity, to pull the phone out and start doing something, returning a text, writing an email, checking social media, whatever it is. It's become almost common. Like, people don't know how to just sit and be with the moment. And you see this all over the place, right? Grocery stores, places of employment, shops, stores. Doesn't matter. You could be even with people in their homes. People do it constantly. This is a sign that you are uncomfortable with presence. First, presence with yourself, but also presence with other people. It can be awkward being with other people, letting other people truly see you. It can be very, very awkward. And I totally understand that, because when you feel ashamed of yourself, when you're living in a lot of self-shame, you almost want to hide. You don't want people to look at you. You don't want people to notice you or to see you, even though there may be a part of you that really wants to be noticed and seen. There's another part of you that's petrified or scared. You feel self-conscious when people are looking at you or observing you. And I can pick this up very quickly when I'm around people, right? When there's some downtime and you're just present, I love personally, and this is just how I'm wired, but I really have learned to love presence. I love being present with myself. It may sound weird. When I'm alone, I love to just be with me, to sit with myself, to pay attention to how I'm feeling, how my body is feeling. I pay attention to what's going on in my mind. I also pay attention to what's happening around me in nature, just living. But one of my favorite things to do is also to be with people. And as a life coach, that's what I do. Professionally, I'm with people all the time and I love it. But I love to be with people, no matter if I'm in a coaching capacity or even if I'm just with friends and family that I love. I love to be with people. And when I'm with a person, they are the most important part of that moment for me. That person is. Whoever I'm sitting across from, whoever I'm with, even if we're not talking, I'm very present with the people I'm with. because first of all, I see their value. I see their intrinsic worth. And this sometimes makes people a little bit, if I'm just being honest, this makes people a little bit uncomfortable, and it really makes people who have shame, a lot of self-shame, it really makes them uncomfortable. Because people who carry a lot of shame are afraid of being seen. And it's very awkward. So many times I'll be sitting with a person and I'll just be with them. Even if we're not talking or doing anything, maybe there's a break in the conversation and we're just there, I will just sit, not awkwardly, but I will look at them, or I'll just be present with them, waiting for them to get present to themselves or to the situation or the moment. And I have no problem doing that. But if you carry a lot of self-shame, you have a hard time just sitting and being with people. And I want to give you an example, a situation that happened to me that changed my entire life. To this day, I'm not the same person because of one event that happened with another person who saw me clearly. Many years ago, I was spending time with a friend who was very dear to me. And this friend, this was many years ago, but they kind of unnerved me a little bit, but they unnerved me in all the best ways. This was a person who was deeply in touch with herself. She knew herself in many ways. She knew herself in ways that I didn't know myself. And I knew that, and I actually was drawn to that. There was something about this friend of mine. She was one of the few people in my life that could see me and notice me in a way that no one else really did. And it was just a powerful, transcendent experience just knowing this person. She saw me so clearly and paid attention, and she was very much at home and at rest with herself. She didn't need to be around other people. She was very content to be with herself, but she also valued and loved people. And I really admired that. But she did unnerve me because in my life at that time, many years ago, I had been living in such a way, as many of us do, that I thought I had to be more than myself. I had to be this impressive person. I had to perform in a certain way. I had to speak in a certain way. I had to be a certain way in order to be really of value to other people. And I always felt like I needed to be of higher value for other people. And I was always getting myself into situations where I was serving, showing up for people in a way that I was not even showing up for myself. And this particular friend of mine kind of was the exception to that rule. She didn't need me to show up for her, but she did see me and she paid attention to me. So one day, I rarely share this story with anybody, so for some reason I feel compelled to share it with you here today. But one day, we had spent some time together. I think we maybe just went out for coffee and we're sharing some things. And then on the way, I was actually going to drop her off at home before I went on with my evening and went back to my house. So as I was dropping her off, just like we normally would, it was nothing out of the ordinary. But as I dropped her off at her house and she was getting ready to open the car door to leave, but she hesitated for a moment. She hesitated. And instead of opening the door, she stopped, and I'll never forget it. She just turned her head around and looked at me. And I thought she was going to say something, but she didn't. She just looked at me. And there was something a little more piercing, in a good way, about that look that I had ever experienced from her before. It was much more intense. And she just looked at me. And I waited for her to say something. I waited for her to look away. And I almost was going to ask her, like, what is it? Do you need something? Before I could get the words out of my mouth, I caught a glimpse of her eye. There was something about the way she was looking at me, and I saw something in her eyes. And what I saw in her eyes, and this wasn't conscious, I saw a version of myself that I had never seen before. It's hard to even put it into words. And it was captivating. I felt in that moment that she was actually seeing through all the layers I didn't even know I had. I thought I knew myself at that point, but in that moment, the gaze, the way she was looking at me with her gaze, I realized in that moment that I had never met this part of me that she was looking at. It wasn't conscious thought, it was an awareness, and it was captivating. It was very healing. I kind of just got drawn into this, almost incapacitated by this trance. And I remember just kind of fighting it. In my mind, I was thinking like, is she going to say something? Am I going to say something? Am I going to look away? Is she going to look away? How long is this going to last? And I was kind of fighting it because I felt very naked, very exposed in this situation. And I couldn't move. And as I was wrestling, at one point in this internal battle, I wanted to just get out of the car and run away. I wanted to ask her what she was doing, but I couldn't. And in that moment, I just surrendered. I just gave up. I just said, I'm going to let myself be seen like this. I've never been seen like that. I'm just going to let her see me. And I just maintained that eye contact, that gaze. She was just looking deeply into my eyes, and I was looking into her eyes. I know it might sound strange. It was like nothing romantic or anything like that, but it was very intense. But the love I felt coming from her and actually welling up from within my own being was unlike a love I had ever experienced in my life till that moment. To be fully witnessed and seen at that level was breathtaking, captivating. And I just allowed myself to be seen. I let her look at me. Beyond the weirdness of the moment, the strangeness of that moment, we were sitting out in front of her home and we were in the car and she was getting ready to leave, and literally she just stared. And this gaze went on for minutes. And minutes turned into hours. I kid you not. 30 minutes went by, an hour went by, an hour and a half goes by, 2 hours goes by. I'm completely, at this point, entirely surrendered and lost in this other dimension. I just got brought up in this other, I got sucked into this dimension. And I could tell there was deep healing, deep pain, years of pain from not being seen, years of neglect, just feeling totally abandoned and not good enough was all coming to the surface. Tears were flowing out of my eyes, but I did not look away. I couldn't look away. I didn't want to look away. I didn't move. I was almost incapacitated, physically just drawn into this. And I let her witness me at a level I've never been witnessed before in my life. And in turn, I was also witnessing her and seeing the depths of who she was. This went on for about 3 hours. Not voluntary. I didn't knowingly know this was going to happen. I just let it happen. I surrendered to it. So in that sense, it was voluntary, but I didn't know it was going to last 3 hours. It was 3 hours before one of us moved or said something. It was the most powerful moment I have ever experienced. And after that situation happened, I experienced one of the most intense, what I call now, I didn't know this at the time, I experienced a very deep sense of ego death. The entire persona I had spent years, decades of my life building came unraveled after that event. My entire life changed. It put me on a completely new trajectory in life because that was the beginning for me of going beyond this character or ego that had been constructed for me that I didn't even know was false and I didn't even know I was so identified with. Now that's my personal story. It sped up the process. What would have taken decades, if not lifetimes of inner work to get to, that 3-hour experience being witnessed and gazed at undid what felt like lifetimes of damage. I rarely share this experience with people because it's hard for people to understand. It's hard for me to understand. It's hard to even talk about it or communicate because it's one of the most precious things that I've ever experienced. But why am I bringing it up now in this video? Well, because people who carry deep sense of self-shame they really resist being witnessed. They resist, even though that's the deepest core desire that they have. People resist being witnessed when they carry shame. They don't know how to be with other people. They don't know how to allow life to witness them. They don't know how to allow other people to witness them. So they keep people at an arm's distance. They distract themselves on the phone, staying busy, overcommitting, whatever it may be. They have a hard time being with people. So if you carry a deep sense of self-shame, you struggle with being witnessed and being present with people and letting people see you. Does that make sense? The third characteristic of people who carry deep self-shame, and this one might be a little surprising to you. Maybe to some of you it won't be, but for a lot of us it will be surprising. And this has to do with your sexual appetite, your sex life, your sexual desire. See, for people who carry self-shame, right? So we're energetic beings, and we have energy that runs up and down our system in the actual spinal column. That'd be a whole other video. That's a whole other conversation to kind of get into the depths of that. But in a nutshell, human beings we're energy beings, and we have energy that flows. The intention of the energy that I call it life force energy. It's the life force energy that lives inside of our body, really starts at the lower regions of our physical body and wants to rise up the system and bring life and vitality to every part of our life, right? So there are these specific energy centers in our body. And one of those energy centers is around the area of our sexuality, our sense of creativity, our sense of self-expression. It's in one of the lower, when I say lower, I don't mean like, not as good, or lower meaning in the body, it's actually at a lower, the location of it is at the lower parts of your spine. And that affects the area right around your sexual organs. So when you have a deep sense of shame, self-shame, this particular energy center is deeply affected, and what happens is it keeps the energy, your life force energy, from rising in your system to give you vitality, to give you creativity, to give you motivation for living. And it keeps it really just almost compressed or suppressed very low in your physical system. And what this does is it affects that area of your body. And this is what I've noticed, that people who carry a lot of self-shame have either an overactive or compulsive sexual appetite, or they have a non-existent or suppressed sexual appetite. It's one or the other. So if your sympathetic nervous system is triggered and you are in a state of high stress and fight or flight, if you're overextended, you're carrying self-shame, you're living in a way that your energy is always depleted, typically people who live in that space will either be very compulsive in their sexuality. It'll be this compulsive, the energy just stays in that region, and they feel like they develop an addiction to sexual release. They develop an addiction to sexual expression because they're trying to mitigate something there. And it becomes very addictive in nature because they don't know what to do. And this isn't conscious. Most of this is subconscious or unconscious. But because people don't know what to do with their shame, their deep sense of shame, they're trying to express this at this very lower energy center in the body, and that can come out or look like sexual compulsive behavior, addictions to pornography, illicit sexual behavior where it's just unconscious. It's almost like a drug, okay? Again, nothing wrong with sexual energy. As a matter of fact, sex and sexual energy are essential to living well. And so I'll talk about that here in a second. But having a compulsive, addictive sexual dimension to your life is actually a sign that you're living in deep self-shame. Now, the flip side of that is, if your nervous system is triggered and you're always in fight or flight, some people, instead of having a compulsive sexual appetite, they'll go to the other extreme, and their sexual appetite will be completely diminished suppressed or shut down to the point where they don't even have sexual desire, or they're not even aware of it, or they suppress it. And this is because that energy, because of deep self-shame, there's an energy center where we store our sense of enoughness or our sense of shame. And those energy centers in the lower regions of our body, if they're assaulted and there's trauma there, that energy can't rise up the system, so it stays very dormant. So it can become compulsive, or it also can become completely suppressed to the point where it's not flowing, and you have no sexual desire, no sexual interest, no ability to really be with that kind of energy in your body. That's a sign of deep shame and personal inadequacy. So I don't know where you land with that, but how is your sexual energy, okay? So what does the opposite of that look like when you're in a healthy space? When you have healthy self-acceptance, what does it look like? Well, number one, it looks like knowing that you don't need, going back to the first characteristic, you don't need to overperform. You don't have to be the savior of other people. You don't have to always please other people and make sure other people are happy with you. You have clear, firm boundaries. You know your no. You say no when you need to. You prioritize self-care. You invest in yourself, whether it's through coaching, whether it's through whatever it may be, good food. You take the steps necessary to invest into your inner well-being because you know you're worth it, you're enough. So you don't overextend yourself. You create the space. You take the time each day for self-care. You don't have to live for the vacations and the weekends where you escape this pressure. You actually learn how to create a life you don't need to escape from. That's the first sign of somebody who does not live in self-shame. Second sign, you know how to be with people. You know how to be with the moment. You don't feel guilty just being present. You don't always have to be distracted. You don't always have to be entertained. You can just be with the people that are with you. And you can also be with yourself. You can sit with yourself. You don't need distractions. You don't need the phones. And the third characteristic of people who are not living in self-shame, you are accepting of your sexual energy, your sexual drive, your sexual desires that live in your body. You don't have to act out on them compulsively, and you also don't need to suppress them. You allow the sexual energy, which then turns into creativity, and you learn how to also transmute it and channel it in a way that you become creative. You actually start to fall in love with the process of living in a very beautiful, embodied, sensual, sexual way even. All I simply mean by that is that you learn how to be with the sexual energy in your body, and you're not ashamed of your creativity and your sexuality. Every human being on the planet, every animal on the planet, everything that's living on the planet is literally in existence in this dimension because of sexual energy. And anything we create in our life and in the world comes from that same energy. And when you're not living in shame, you become very present with sensual, sexual energy in yourself. You also learn how to channel it in appropriate ways. And it's also the fuel for creativity. You become very creative, expressive. That's what happens when you have learned to transcend self-shame. And as a life coach, this is what I do when I work with people. I have a signature one-to-one life coaching program for individuals who want to step out of self-shame, who want to step into their highest form of life and learn to cultivate their life and move their life in a direction they want to take it. And this signature 90-day program I've worked with numerous people, and it's totally transformed their lives. And I want to tell you a little bit more about that here.
I just wasn't sleeping anymore. I felt like I was stuck. I could not stay motivated, and it was hard to focus. I tried self-help books, therapy. I even took a vacation, and nothing helped. And then I found a personal coaching system that gave me back my life. Hi, Jamal.
What she discovered is the energy acquisition system developed by Jamal Javanji. a globally recognized coach featured on Fox Network, Newsmax TV, and an Amazon best-selling author with over 100 podcast episodes guiding listeners and transforming men and women worldwide.
My 90-day coaching system is for anyone looking for a renewed sense of vitality and well-being.
I haven't felt this alive in years. Jamal changed that.
Don't just wait for a change. Do something about it. Book your session with Jamal today.
Your breakthrough begins the moment you say, yes, I'm ready for change. Hit the button below and let's get started. Okay, so don't be shy. If this resonated, if something about that 90-day program resonated with you and you want to know some more information about it and to know if it's a good fit for you and what you're looking for in your season of life, go below this video. In the show notes, there's a link. You can click on that link and schedule your free consultation call with someone who will tell you a little bit more about the program and really get a good sense, is this a good fit for you? Okay. Also, I want to know from you, I want to hear from you. If you've listened to this video and you've heard about these 3 characteristics or 3 indicators, I should say, that you're living in really extreme versions of self-shame, if any of these 3 characteristics or if any of these 3 indicators have resonated with you, maybe this is something that you've struggled with, please don't just go on with this video. It really helps to hear from you. I'd love to hear from you in the comment section. Leave a comment. Tell us which one of these 3 characteristics do you wrestle with or have you wrestled with in the past? Maybe you currently still wrestle with it. Please put it in the comment section. It really helps other people too to find the video, but also helps people to hear that they're not alone, that we're not alone in this. Maybe you struggle with the first one, right? With boundaries and overperformance. Maybe you struggle with being present, letting people witness you, letting people see you. Or maybe you struggle with seeing other people or seeing yourself and being with yourself. Or maybe you struggle sexually with a compulsive, overactive sexual tendency. Or maybe your sexual appetite has been completely suppressed. I know that's really vulnerable, but don't be afraid to share. If you feel comfortable enough, put it in the comment section. Tell us what's your takeaway from this video? What are you hearing that you didn't know before? Or what's standing out to you? What's speaking to you? Love to hear from you. So please put that in the comment section. And if you like this video, please like it. It goes a long way to helping the video get discovered. Please push the like button, subscribe to the channel. All of this helps other people find these videos. Okay? Really appreciate you being here, and I'll see you in the next video.